1956, you're in Budapest.
Yes,
There's rumors of a revolution.
yes.
Okay, what happened? Were you co-opted into the revolution?
Well, everybody was involved,
Yeah.
and the revolution lasted for a month. And after a month, the revolution failed, and me and my two buddies, we left the country.
How'd you get out?
Well, we escaped through Vienna, which is in Austria. That's where we end up. And then from Austria, we applied for a refugee visa, more or less, for the United States. And that's how I got to this country.
Now, you mentioned something earlier about how the Russians wouldn't fight you at first.
Well, when the revolution broke out, the Russians, they were stationed since 1945, and the World War II was over. They left in Hungary till 1956. They married to Hungarian women, they had Hungarian kids in school and everything. And they knew our situation because the people, they were fed up with Russia and the communist system. And that's why the revolution broke out, so they weren't fighting against us. They put the weapon down, and 1 month later, Russia decided to change this unit, and they sent in a brand new unit. And that were killing everybody who were just said a word. And that's when I decided to leave.
Okay, then how did you come to the States? Did you come by boat or did you flew?
No, by plane. We took a plane from Munich, and it was a prop plane. We went first to Ireland and to Greenland, and from Greenland to St. Andrews Air Force Base.
Which is where?
New Jersey.
Okay, Jersey. All right.
And from there we end up in Camp Kilmer Army Base, where they held us until was a service from New Haven, Connecticut. They picked me up.
But how long were you in the camp? Couple
About a couple weeks, yeah. And from this camp, from New Haven, they put me up with some family, and they find me a job to an interpreter.
You were a tool.
I was a tool and die maker, yes, yes. But that time I was just 17 years old. Nobody believed me that a 17-year-old can have a skilled job already. So a lot of places, they said, we don't hire you, we don't hire you. Until one place I told them, I says, look, don't pay me, just give me the job. Let me show you what I can do. And the guy gave me a job, which only lasted for a few months. Then I got drafted in the Army.
Steve, Jeff, you guys know this stuff.
Yeah, that's
You got drafted into the U.S. Army and you spoke how much English?
Very little, very little English I spoke. But anyway, I went through it. I went through basic training,
Where'd you do basic training?
Fort Dix, New Jersey. And that time, Elvis Presley just came back from Germany. So I was with him in the same unit. We were about 10,000 soldiers. And he was a very nice guy.
Did you meet him?
Well, I was about 6 or 8 feet away from him,
Okay.
basically. You know, because we were supposed to put a band together. And they will take anybody for the band. They said, don't worry about it, they have the instrument. So I wanted to see Elvis Presley. So he says, where is your instrument? So I said, well, I cannot find it. I said, well, what instrument you play? I said, a heavy instrument. I said, well, what? I said, church bells. They threw me out of there like, but I saw Elvis Presley.
So this is what, about 57, 58?
Yes,
Okay, then when did you settle into New York? 60s?
I got discharged in 59, and then I decided to move to California. And I moved on to California. Then when I received my citizenship papers, I went to see my parents that day in Israel. And
They got out too.
they got out a year after I left Hungary. Legally, they left Hungary. The reason, if I was there, they won't let them out because I was already drafted into the Hungarian army. If they would have caught me at the border, they would right away execute me because I was like a army AWOL soldier.
Okay, so then how long you in California for? Are you learning film at this point?
No, nothing about film. But film was like a dream for me. I always had something to do with film. I admired the old film, all the Tarzan films. I seen them when I was a kid. And one time I was so close to a camera where they were filming one movie that I said, oh my God, if one time I would get to just touch a camera like this. So photography was always, and cinema photography especially, was always my dream.
Were you working never in Hungary?
No, because it was like so much money. The equipment and the schooling was only you had to have special schooling and everything to get into that. But Hungarian filmmakers, they were very famous in the whole world.
Well, name one.
Well, first of all, the first guy who ever made the 3D film his name was Tóth, and he was a cinema photographer, successful, and also the two guys, Zsigmond, a cinema photographer, and Kovács, the second one.
These guys were Hollywood guys, weren't they?
Yeah, Hollywood guys. Yeah, they were charged, I don't know for how many years they were head of the cinema photography group.
And then when did you when did you come back to New York then?
Well, I came back to New York in 1965, and I got a job as a tool and die maker. And I got to tell myself when I had two little boys, which right now they owning this place, Steve and Jeff, that I says one day, if I ever become, that I can have a place like this with my sons. And this whole thing was a dream in my head.
So you're back in New York, you got two sons, and is your wife, is she Hungarian too?
Yes, yes.
You met her here though?
No, I met her while I was in Israel.
Okay.
And I married her there, and I brought her back here. And
Oh, hold it. Your parents were living in
Israel,
Israel. You went over, what year was it?
1963.
Okay. And you come back to New York in 65.
65. I stayed in Israel for 2 years. Matter of fact, I worked there in a
Did you get
factory.
drafted?
I worked there in a factory that I worked on a first prototype of the desaltinization of the seawater. I made the first prototype, which was very successful, that right now the finished product was about 7 times bigger than the one that I worked on. And right now, Israel using 80% of their water, which coming through
The desalination.
this authorization.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever get that, but that's the fact.
Oh, I understand it. But now, you're back here, 65. When do you buy your first camera?
What?
When do you buy your first camera?
My first well, I bought a camera for me soon as I had some extra money in my pocket, because the cameras, especially on a used camera stores, on a hawk shops, how you call it, and they were very much. I bought my camera, the very first camera, I paid like $5 for it. The 35 millimeter was a Rolleiflex. And I always wanted to buy a Leica. And because back in Europe, a Leica was like the price of a house. And then I got some money together and I bought one. And actually, I sold that camera when we already had a business. All the lenses, because nobody was taking pictures anymore.
So then what was the name of the first place? Your first shop.
Let me
Was it
try.
always Duo? No.
No, yeah, always Duo.
Always
Always
Duo,
Duo.
okay.
Always Duo. What I'm trying to think. Okay. Well, I wanted to create a career for, especially for my kids. And I was looking for into a change my trade, because to work as a tool and die maker, every place where I worked, I was the youngest and I was making the most money. But I was already where I'm at the top. I couldn't go any higher. So I decided to looking for something else. And that time, Camera Service Center were advertising somebody who can work in their shop and they will train the person. I applied and they hired me. And that's how my career started in the motion picture industry. And I loved the place. I loved the people around me. It was very interesting. And especially the cameras, I could handle them and hold them in my hand and look through them. And that was like a dream came true.
What cameras What cameras were you working with? Aries?
Aries and the Mitchell, the Airy, and the Photosonic.
Cinema product?
Cinema product camera also, and the NPR, ACL, I can't remember the name of the cameras. So many years ago. Anyway.
Claire's?
Eclairs, yeah, it's the NPR, it's the
Right,
Eclair.
Hammerflex.
And then the super speed lenses just came out from Aeroflex, from Zeiss. And I learned from the German scientists that they created that lens. I was like 2 weeks in a seminarium to learn them, which was very interesting.
The seminar was here?
Here, yeah.
The German guys came in.
Came because they wanted to sell. They had a colorimeter, which was what they're using in a factory, and they wanted to sell that colorimeter to all the rental houses. So they explained it to us, all the ifs and the buts and the pros and the cons. And I think the price was about $250,000. So that time I worked for Camera Mart. And Camera Mart sent me to the seminar. And after the seminar, my boss at Camera Mart asked me if we would get this, our production would get better. I said, well, I don't know. I said, all I can tell you, you have another good gadget in your hand.
They buy it.
No, they never bought it. They never bought it.
Heard from Camera Service Center. Where did you go then?
No,
In
freelance.
Furco.
You went to where?
Furco.
I don't remember that place.
Film equipment rental company.
Okay.
It was a company owned by Peter Schmutzler, who took over Panavision. Ronnie Latour was a DP. And Ed O'Neill was an accountant, ex-Marine nut job. So they ran this company, which was down the block from Camera Mart. Right?
No, Camera Service.
No, but it was down the block when they had that, when Furco was originally on.
Oh, the
54th
other
Street.
place, yeah.
It was on 54th Street before it moved to 50th Street.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then I got fired from Furco for taking too many days off. Right?
Yeah.
And then I went to Camera Mart,
Yeah.
where George was, and I got fired from there. No, I got fired from Furco for abusing the customers. That's what it was.
For what?
For abusing the customers. That's what happened at Furco, that's right. I got fired at Camera Mart for taking too many days off.
Well, you freelanced.
Right?
You know.
No, he was abusing the customers. He wasn't freelancing.
Yeah, abusing the customers. I would tell, oh, forget about it. They would, it was back in the day where I would tell, what the fuck is your problem, man?
But
Yeah,
the
back
only
then,
thing is,
how many Chinese guys are working in the camera?
no, listen. At Camera Mart, I left Camera Service Center. I quit and I went to Camera Mart. And the guy who was our boss, his wife was the boss's daughter, you know? And he did such a favor to me because he said, look, on a weekend, you have any kind of a job or any equipment you want to do, you can take it and just make sure you put it on a contract and we memo, you know,
Yeah.
and we put it in a contract and insure it and everything, and you return it.
That's when you were shooting the wedding and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. And we used to pick up equipment, Ernie and I, you know, we had a crew
We were
together.
the weekend warriors.
Yeah, we
How,
used
how
to.
much money were you guys making on a weekend?
Couple of grand, I don't know.
Oh, so it paid well then.
Yeah, it was a lot of work. You know.
It supplemented our
Yeah.
income a little bit, you know.
Yeah, they bought a house with it.
But practically,
Yeah,
you know.
Weekend warrior, 50 weekends a year, you know.
We worked.
It was a deal you couldn't beat. We worked in a rental house. Every
Yeah.
Friday night, we would get whatever gear we wanted. It didn't matter. We had $1 million, equipment at our disposal. We take it out for the weekend, shoot 3 days, right? Return it on Monday. That was it.
Did you guys ever try to do a movie?
One time,
No.
no. One time we were on a picking, you know, on the but
the boat? By
the
the
boat.
South Street Seaport.
Yeah. We had like 50 models on a picking.
Right. It was like, that was a fun shoot. Then we went to Studio 54.
You were shooting at Studio 54?
Yeah. It was just,
They let you in there, no problem?
No problem at all. Back in the day.
There was permits.
When was the inception of Do-All Camera?
Well, the first job in the camera industry I got in New York at Camera Service Center. I worked there, I don't even know, maybe 3-4 years. And then I wanted to get ahead. And the other company, Camera Mart, they were doing also video and film. And they had stages, and it was a bigger company. And they offered me a job there. And I quit Camera Service Center and I went to Camera Mart. Camera Mart was very good to me. The company used to let me take equipment home for the weekend, and just on a memo. And we used to shoot weddings, bar mitzvahs, commercials. And this supplemented our income that would help me to put a down payment on a house. And then later on, I decided, actually, the company Camera Mart closed their doors. And I really was thinking about how about if I would open my own business. And when I did my videos, I called it Do All Video. And then I decided I open a company, a film company and video company, and I called it Do All Film and Video. And my two sons, after I was partnered with somebody, a friend of mine, I broke up, and my two sons came with me, and they still here, running the business without me. I retired about 15 years ago, and they carry my tradition very well.
They say
And I'm-
they
and
say
I'm
they're
proud
kings
of
the
them.
world here.
I hope that our grandchildren will watch this and get a little bit of history, background of their grandparents.
This is the retired lineup right here of Dual Camera, and these are the current captains of the industry. I mean, how do you feel following in your father's footsteps?
Well, it's big shoes to fill. But I hope we did him proud.
Okay, Jeff, what about you?
Yeah, listen, very thankful for what he created for us here. And we just hope to continue and keep the business going for as many years to come.
I always told them, just keep following it. It worked for me, and it's gonna work for you. And it did.